Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you all for joining us. Today, we're going to present a session we're calling 3D Experience Workflows for the Average SOLIDWORKS User. All right, so my name is Glenn White, joined here by my colleague Scott Woods, and today we're going to take you through some 3D Experience workflows that we think make sense for the average SOLIDWORKS user. As you might tell from the screen here, this was a presentation we first showed at 3DExperience World 2021 in February this year. So my name is Glenn White, based in Vancouver, BC in Canada. The Director of Technical Sales here at Hawkridge Systems, so responsible for the technical side of our software portfolio, with a particular focus on our new software products. And many of the items aligned with the 3DExperience fit into that category. Here at Hawkridge Systems, we're a SOLIDWORKS and Dassault Systems reseller, been around for over about 25 years at this point, and we're one of the largest resellers in North America.
Hey, and my name is Scott Woods. I'm from Seattle, Washington, and I'm the product manager for CATIA and 3DExperience. And yeah, I've been using SOLIDWORKS for about 13 years, and my background is in organic furniture design, which is going to fit nicely into my section of this presentation.
Awesome, thanks, Scott. So today we want to show you 3 workflows that we have SOLIDWORKS users like yourself using today. Okay, we're going to look at some file management workflows. We'll look at some workflows for organic shape creation using the subdivision modeling tool, and then we'll talk a little bit about structural analysis at the end. But before we do, we want to talk a little bit about the 3DExperience. Now, I can almost guarantee that most of the audience here have heard about the 3DExperience. It's one of the major software initiatives. It's one of the underpinnings of one of the major software initiatives from the SOLIDWORKS team over the past few years. But information about it, getting information about it, can be a little tricky. Okay, so what you've probably seen, so 3DExperience is kind of a platform. It has it's a piece of technology, kind of like an operating system, that enables a bunch of other things to happen, whether those are CAD operations, whether those are data management workflows, whether those are analysis techniques. But here at SOLIDWORKS, we're kind of used to just showing you our entire product portfolio. There's 3 versions of SOLIDWORKS, and I'll happily show you a matrix of what comes in each of the 3 versions. The 3DExperience is a little more complex. It does a lot more. It has functionalities for quality management and product lifecycle management, all the way to advanced surfacing for aerospace design. It has an incredible breadth of stuff. So when we start laying out the different things it can do, right, by laying out all the different apps that you might get in a given role, or even just looking at functionality matrices of different functionality, it's very, very easy to get snowed under very, very quickly. And Scott, if you think back to when you started with the 3DExperience, what was your experience like?
Well, when I first started, I treated it like a CAD application. Like I think probably a lot of people here can relate to. You get a new program, and you're like, okay, let's learn this. What do I got? I got my features, my tools, my drop-down menus. Let's look through it all and try to make sense out of this. And I was treating the 3DExperience platform the same way, right? Where like, what roles do I have? What apps do I have access to? And let's make an Excel spreadsheet and kind of put notes down for every one of them. And I don't know, I got about 25% of the way through that and thought, maybe this isn't the best approach.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, I think we can take an analogy to that. So I'm sure we have a lot of very experienced SOLIDWORKS users in the room here today. I like to consider myself an experienced SOLIDWORKS user. Skills might not quite be what they once were, these days, but Scott, I know you do too. You've been using SOLIDWORKS how long?
13 years. Yep.
Yeah. And how would
And
you rate your knowledge of SOLIDWORKS? As like if you think about everything it does, how much are you comfortable with?
I think like you, I have probably lost a little bit over the last couple of years, but I think, I still 50, 60% of the software I feel very comfortable with. And, there's a good chunk that if I need to figure it out, I got help menu from SolidWorks. I have online resources and I can probably figure it out.
Yeah. And look, I'm very much the same. I'd say about 60% of it I think I know very well. There's another 30% that can figure out if I want to. And then for me, there's SolidWorks routing. Don't know it, don't want to learn it. I think we all have that little piece. What's yours, Scott?
Well, you're probably going to disagree with me, but that's mine is simulation.
Yeah, that's my favorite part. So, but I think this is what we bring in a lot to our software usage, right? We expect to be experts. We're used to being experts, whether it's in SolidWorks or MATLAB or uh, Photoshop or whatever we use. You've got that really good knowledge of the applications that you work in day in, day out. But to throw a different sort of curveball, you know, you think about that same exercise with Windows, right? Um, I've been using Windows since 3.1, so that's a very long time, far too long to even think about. And I still only know 20, 25% of how it actually works, right? I can get to what I need to do. I can launch my apps to do my job. If I need to like figure out a graphics card driver or something like that, I can get to it, I can figure it out, but then there's this great mass of things that I don't know. I'm not an IT guy, don't have a networking background, don't know how Windows manages memory, but it doesn't really matter, right? I can do my job. And when I think about the 3D experience, and I think this mental shift really helped me once I started working on it, I look at it as an operating system. In and of itself, the 3D experience doesn't do anything, right? It only becomes useful when I put an application on top of it that does the job. So um, that's where we really want to focus on those workflows that get a job done, rather than trying to understand the packaging and the role breakdown and the applications available. Let's focus on a job we need to do, and we can show you workflows and the appropriate software components needed to do that thing. We don't need to know how it's handling the common data, how the database structure is configured, any of that fancy stuff. Um, just like we don't need to know in Windows. And I found this mental shift really helped for me to make progress with exploring how some of these 3D experience tools could help me do my job better. You see the same, Scott?
Oh, absolutely. And I was glad to find out you started at Windows 3.1 because I started at 3.11, so not quite as old.
Yeah, it'll be that one year I've got on you there.
But yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
So yeah, so our focus today from here on out is to show you 3 roles, right? Um, and we'll get to those, but the obvious question that you're sitting here looking at that is saying, well, if you're saying it's an operating system, why do I need a new operating system? I have one with Windows. I have desktop SolidWorks. Why are we even talking about this stuff? What is it going to do for me? And I think the part that's really exciting is that there is these fundamental technology advantages that are enabled by the 3D experience and this kind of new paradigm for computing and CAD applications, right? So the first one is that they're natively cloud connected and maybe even browser based. And that means that the IT headaches that we've all been dealing with, especially over the last year, with VPNs and access to company servers and all those fun things, they evaporate, they go away. Right? That's managed for you. There's the concept that data can flow throughout your organization without conversion or translation. You're not taking CAD files, snapping screenshots of them and shipping them over to the marketing department, right? By email. By having a common database, people can get the assets they need to do their job without having to transfer them by email and other means. As we move into CAD applications, the kernel, the CAD kernel, the fundamental geometry kernel behind the 3DExperience is really, really impressive, right? It can do things that we can't even imagine with SOLIDWORKS. And so as those CAD applications develop, that's going to be really exciting for very, very large assemblies. You'll see some stuff on organic shapes, right? It's just the engine under SOLIDWORKS just can't do those things. And then, in the meantime, we do have tight integration with desktop SOLIDWORKS. No one's saying stop using SOLIDWORKS. SOLIDWORKS is going away. It will persist for a very, very long time, and we'll be able to augment the functionality of that stuff with applications on the 3DExperience that do a job. Right, so let's jump into the 3 roles. But again, if you have any questions or feedback, we'd love to see it. So, business problem number 1. This is a really common one right now, where we need to collaborate on a design, but we don't have a server or a strong network connection together or anything like that. So, if you commonly work with your colleagues, you're both distant from each other, how can you work together on an assembly without stepping on each other's toes, without undoing each other's changes? How can we do that while being disconnected? And the solution is a tool called Collaborative Designer for SOLIDWORKS. So Scott, I'm in Vancouver, you're in Seattle. We work a lot on the same stuff. I can't even remember what we did before. What did we do?
I tell you what, it definitely has been a game changer, especially with everything we had to deal with in the last year. My gosh, so it's nice to be able to save my designs to the cloud for you to access, and I can see what you're working on. And just like my next section that I'm going to do, I pulled that from your workspace, so it just worked out really well.
And look, we've never had a corporate network at Hawkridge here. We get so many disparate offices, it's just never made sense. And all of our collaboration is by email. But now with tools like the Collaborative Designer for SOLIDWORKS, we're able to do it a lot cleaner. Okay, so what you're looking at here is conventional SOLIDWORKS. Okay, regular old desktop SOLIDWORKS, I'm sure most of you are using, and a small assembly on the screen. In the right-hand panel, I've got my 3DExperience vault, if you want to use that word, right? So the workspace that I'm saving this data to. The first thing I do when I am ready to commit a design is to just right-click the object and save. But I've already done that here. And the interface is showing me some feedback automatically, right? First column here is showing me the status of these objects versus what is in the vault system in the database, essentially. So green check marks mean that that item has not been modified since it was last saved. Orange check marks here. Orange discs tell us that it has been modified since it was last saved, and I can update that, and that will go away. Okay. And the next column is the reservation status. So when you're working on assembly collaboratively, you want to know who has write access to what, because you don't want 2 people trying to do write access to the same thing at the same time. That doesn't go well. Okay, so the green keys say this item is reserved, it's checked out by me. The red padlock tells me that it's reserved by someone else, and in this case, the culprit is Scott on the other end of the line here. So I can instantly see what he's working on. Windows is controlling the read-only write access status of that. You'll see as I unreserve it, it becomes read-only. And this is all real-time connected to the vault. So as I'm making those changes, if Scott's looking at his screen and as it's refreshing, they're updating live. So perfectly dynamic, right? We have the ability to increment revisions, right? So as I'm making changes to my system, take control of that object, maybe make a change here. Instantly got an update here that needs to be saved. And when I do save it, I've got a choice of whether I save it over top of kind of the current iteration, or if I want to increment the revision, right? So to create a B version of this that has this change. So you're able to manage your milestones there as you go. It'll map properties are attributes, and you know, really good tool for working collaboratively on an assembly in a small design team. Okay. The other side of this is that all of this stuff is also available through a web browser, right? So this is just a straight up web browser where I'm looking at my 3DExperience environment. I'm looking at the same files, the same content that we were just looking at in SOLIDWORKS, but I'm able to view them in a variety of different ways in a web interface here. So, for example, the assembly that I was just playing with, right, I can just drag it into a 3D viewer. Anyone with web access and a license to my database here can see this, can section it, measure it, whatever. It's like e-drawings without software. I've got the ability to do things like look at the structure of this product, right? So, you know, the assembly hierarchy. Just load that up there. Again, from the web, able to look at this, and I see some great questions coming in, so we'll jump to those in a second. So again, I can kind of see that structure, that breakdown here with a nice 3D viewer and dynamic highlighting. I can pop open a view that gives me kind of file management tasks, like moving things through a release cycle or changing the revision, right? And all of these views that I'm showing you are basically just customizable dashboards that I've set up in a way that I find useful, right? So I can drag them around on my screen, position these little windows in a variety of different ways. So I'm going to look at these questions. I'm pretty sure we're going to get some obvious ones. First one here, and this is a great question from Rich. How does this compare to PDM Professional or PDM Standard, right? So SOLIDWORKS PDM Professional, SOLIDWORKS PDM Standard are both server-based data management systems. I'll be straight up at this point in time. PDM Standard, PDM Professional do more than the 3DExperience collaborative design and workflows. So they've got more options for workflow configuration, for revision scheme configuration, all that sort of stuff. So if you have those in place and they're working, you're probably not going to want to switch to this. If you have those in place and really struggling with server connectivity, VPN, network access, maybe something to think about, but it's a very simple data management scheme. They'll let you stop from stepping on your coworkers' toes, by working on the same assembly together and allow you to do basic revision management. And that's about it. Ed has a really good question as well. He's asking, is SOLIDWORKS running locally on the client or is it running on the internet? And in this case, SOLIDWORKS is running locally on my system. This is a regular license of SOLIDWORKS installed as normal. So the only thing we've added on here is the cloud database piece. And the last question here from Kyle, and please share more. He's asking if the files are stored on the 3DExperience platform or could they be stored in Dropbox? They do need to be stored in the 3DExperience database on the Dassault Systems cloud environment. It'll behave very similarly to Dropbox in that it's accessible from anywhere on any device, but it does require using that database. That's a big piece of the technology
There's
that's behind it.
There's also an option in there to pull from Dropbox to the 3DX platform if you need to pull those in.
Yeah, that's probably more for just like a migration or an import action.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly.
Yeah. So we could go a lot deeper into that, but just as a quick 10-minute overview, there's an option there, and we really think it works well for small design teams, right? 2 to 3 to 5 people. You're probably working without data management right now, using network folders or emailing files back and forth. This allows you to get started with synchronized design, collaborative design with no server infrastructure. And great access for non-CAD users to get into that web interface and look at things, measure things, explore things, etc. Okay. What do you think, Scott? You want to show them another one, another workflow here?
Yeah, let's do that. I'll go ahead and I'll just take over. All right, so the next step here, we're going to talk about organic shape creation, also known as subdivision or sub-D modeling. And this is where we're going to create those visually appearing non-prismatic shapes. So we all know and love SOLIDWORKS CAD, right? It's the king of the CAD world. And it can create very organic shapes. However, the surfacing tools within SOLIDWORKS really are geared toward parametric analytical modeling. And so what that means is that when you're using SOLIDWORKS, there's going to be a larger time investment to get that organic shape. It's fantastic tools. I mean, don't get me wrong, I used to use it to create fluffy furniture all the time, and I felt the pain with having to create all of the planes. You create your sketches in between the planes. You're going to loft those. You're going to sweep them. You're going to, okay, now we're going to cap the ends. So we're going to have like 3D sketches and world surfaces and there's all sorts of tools to get that job done. But sometimes we just need a quick design concept, something that's organic, that isn't going to take a lot of time to create and do that fast, right? And so basically a 3D napkin sketch, organic, for an organic model. Now, sometimes, or a lot of times, this discipline for creating these organic models might be a totally separate division within a company. So you might have engineering using SOLIDWORKS, and we have our styling studio or industrial design department using various other organic modeling tools and creating those shapes. Also, those other departments may not even use a PC. And they're not using SOLIDWORKS, probably. They're probably using something like a Mac or an iPad or some kind of tablet with a touch device or a stylus or hand gestures or whatever. And the point here is that organic design at some point has to come back into mechanical design. And in this case, SOLIDWORKS. So we have this organic model. It needs to come back into SOLIDWORKS so we can cut into it, create holes and bolts, and add it to our design or our assembly. And the current process of doing that is, we need to export that as a step file or something, and then bring it into SOLIDWORKS. And oh no, we have to bring it back. So we're going to export it again, and we're going to bring it back, do some organic modeling, export it again, import. And every time you do that, you lose integrity on the model. And so what we are proposing here is a solution called 3D Sculptor. It's part of the 3DExperience platform. It uses a tool called XShape, which is our subdivision modeling app. And so what this is going to give us is the ability to quickly create those organic shapes by pushing and pulling, more like modeling in clay. That's going to port directly into SOLIDWORKS. You can make adjustments in SOLIDWORKS, and you can go back and forth as many times as you need. So it's really good workflow. All right, let me go ahead and pop over to the platform here, and let's show you the tools. So to start off, I have a napkin sketch. So this is a 2D JPEG drawing that, you know, say you're sketching with a client or whatever, and you're like, okay, this is kind of the general shape that we need. We can bring that right into XShape, and then from here, I need to start modeling this. So instead of creating a bunch of planes and profile sketches and everything that you need to, like, you know, create a parametric model of this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a primitive, and we have lots of shapes to start off with. And I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to start with a cube. Pop that on there. All right. So now I need to decide, you know, how many segments of this cube that I want. So I'm going to go ahead and, you know, just say, yeah, it's going to be pretty thin. So we're going to just do one in that direction and something like that. Mid plane, because it's, you know, it's going to be symmetrical on both sides. I could also crease the edges if I wanted, but I do want this to be organic, so I'm gonna keep it smooth like that. And then we just say okay. And then from here, the trick is that you don't need to be totally precise, right? You just kind of want to get the idea across because you're dealing with a chunk of clay that's never going to harden. You can always tweak it, you can always modify it. It doesn't have to be perfect every step of the way. So I'm just going to roughly get my size here. Let's go ahead and stretch it, you know, something like that. Sure, we'll start with this. Also, it's pretty thick. This is a oh, I didn't even mention this. This is going to be a fin for a surfboard, and so you know, this is going to actually have to attach back to the surfboard within SOLIDWORKS. And so let's go ahead and just, you know, make it a bit thinner, maybe something like that. I'm also going to tell the software that it's going to be symmetrical, and that way anything I do on one side it's going to do on the other. So let's say that I grab like this point here, and this is the sub D modeling right here, where I can just take this and I can pull it out from the model, and you can see it's going to repeat that on the other side just like that. So now what I'm going to do is flatten the top so I can reattach it, so I can attach it to the surfboard once I bring this into SOLIDWORKS. So we've got a great tool here. It's called Crease Edges. It does exactly what it sounds like it does. And we can just go ahead and crease those edges so I have a nice flat surface that I can mate to the bottom of that board within SOLIDWORKS. You know, drill some holes in here or cut some holes in here and create some fasteners and all that good stuff. Okay, so now that we have the kind of general shape, I'm just going to kind of move it into place here. So let me go ahead and just bring her down. And then this is where the fun comes in, where we actually just start stretching it, right? We're like, okay, let's go ahead and move it into locations. We got these control nodes, and all I need to do is take these guys and kind of shift them over, and you can see this curvature continuous lines going through the model, where I'm just taking this and I'm just moving it to contour to the shape of the sketch. And you see something like this, and you're like, oh, it's not perfect. Hey, don't worry about it, because, you know, well, let's get the general idea, and then we'll come back and do all of the fine tuning. And just kind of tilt it, bring it over. Let's kind of tuck that right in the corner here. And what I'm doing is I'm contouring to this edge. I'm just doing little slow movements, something like that, just to fit it. Maybe this guy needs to come in a little bit. And you can see how close I'm getting just after a few, minutes of modeling here. And so now I'm creating this super organic shape, and I don't have to create any sketches whatsoever. And
Scott, I wasn't paying attention before, but is this running in a browser?
absolutely. So good catch there. So you can see I don't have anything installed. There's no special plugins or anything. It's literally a browser-based application. So if you have a device, any device, could be your phone, as long as it has a browser and an internet connection, you can create 3D organic models. So it's pretty powerful, and if I was on my phone, I could use hand gestures and whatnot to actually do exactly what I'm doing right here. Yeah, really great
Yeah,
catch.
so I guess it's kind of like we talked about that technology piece, right? Being able to do these sort of things without installed software on a browser is pretty exciting, pretty compelling. And while
Absolutely.
we've got kind of organic shapes today, there will be many more options in the future.
And I think, one of the best things about this is that, you don't have to worry about, is my hardware good enough? Is my files, they're going to get too big or anything like that for performance reasons. It's just on the cloud. So, and you don't have to worry about what device you're using to make that work. And, I could continue forward here, just take this guy and, I can make everybody sit through me, tucking this in and everything like that. But just for time purposes, I'm going to switch over to a completed model. And so this is the finished design, or at least until we get into SOLIDWORKS, we're probably going to bring it back in, make some tweaks. Just to point out a couple things, the back edge here is creased, and we've finished up the front edge and really just tucked it in and followed that line of the napkin sketch. And I look at this thinking, okay, I have a solid model. It's pretty well done, at least for the initial phase. And let's pop it over to SOLIDWORKS. So using like what Glenn just showed in the last section, you can just bring it right into an assembly, mate it up, and then pop it back into XDesign, and that organic surface, that subdivision surface, we can edit it and we can add more, whatever we need. So very, very powerful tool.
Now, I'm going to preempt a question here, Scott. What can I do with that shape in SOLIDWORKS?
So the shape's going to come in as a solid. You can cut into it, you can extrude off of it, you can add features. You're not going to be able to control the nodes. You're not going to be able to do the subdivision where you're pushing and pulling. That's done in X shape. So you would just pop it back in X shape, push and pull, good to go, back into SOLIDWORKS, finish it off.
Yeah, so but fantastic is like a day one concept of here's what we think it'll look like, and then you can go do your detailed design around it with using it as a visual reference. So it's pretty cool. I know that concept design is kind of a sore point for a lot of SOLIDWORKS users, right?
Absolutely, because what if you need something in 2 hours, right? Hey, we got this bid, let's go ahead and get it out. We just need just a basic shape. I don't have time to fully model that out parametrically, and this allows you to do that. And it allows you to do things that you just can't do in SOLIDWORKS, like push and pull subdivision modeling. I love this. I mean, tell you what, this would have made my life so much easier about 12 years ago. I have no idea. But yeah, so it's pretty fantastic. And then those finished shapes, I mean, they load back into SOLIDWORKS. And then the last takeaway there is, I mean, it's all browser based. So you even if you're just viewing it with your phone, it's there, and if you wanted to model it or modify it, you could. And so it's just it's that next generation technology, and it's really exciting.
Awesome. The final workflow that we want to discuss with you today is around analysis, around structural analysis. And we've had SOLIDWORKS simulation, or CosmosWorks, as it used to be known, for a long, long time, back to about 1997, I believe. So long, long time. And that's a great tool for most analysis. but there are places where it can struggle, especially in the nonlinear realm of um, analysis. Complex problems with lots of contact interactions, large deformations, those sort of things. So one of the other cool elements of the 3D experience is that we have access to the Dassault Systèmes stable of technology a lot of the time. And there is a tool called Simulia Abacus that is probably the most powerful commercial nonlinear solver available today. The 3D experience through the SOLIDWORKS packages give us a link to be able to move into that Abacus solver and tackle some of those tough problems. So if you've ever, tried a tough analysis problem, a strength problem with rubbers or silicones or something that's deforming a lot, or has lots of contact interactions, many parts coming together across a lot of different faces, you've probably seen SOLIDWORKS simulations struggle, right? And the SOLIDWORKS tools give us analysis packages that we can access right within SOLIDWORKS. So basically, send your model from SOLIDWORKS to the 3DExperience analysis app and tackle that tough analysis problem with a very, very robust solver, the Abacus solver. So sometimes things that look deceptively simple can be tricky. This simple clip analysis is hard work for the SOLIDWORKS simulation solver. And the reason it's hard work is that as you move this clip in, once you get over this ledge here, the finger snaps back into place. And that snap action where it's kind of unrestrained will cause the solver not to converge in SOLIDWORKS simulation. The Abacus solver will handle that no problems. And this is kind of a nominal example, but there's many, many real life, real engineering situations where that becomes really important. So the other two big characteristics of the SOLIDWORKS tools, these more advanced analysis packages, one is the concept of general contact. In SOLIDWORKS simulation and most other analysis tools, if you've got two parts coming together, you need to tell the software which faces on each part are going to interact when they meet. If you've got a lot of parts moving together in a complex way, that can be a lot of selections, right? And if you miss one, you get the wrong behavior. General contact in Abacus basically says, I'm going to figure out which faces might come together and keep checking throughout the analysis. So there's no user input required. The last piece is that we have access to cloud solving, right? Because we're working in this cloud connected environment, and you'll start to see this in the CAD applications too. We can use the power of cloud computing, of remote computing, to really drive performance. We can access cloud-based solving for some of these tricky analysis problems. So the potential of that is really, really cool. So for that one, I challenge you, if you have a tough analysis problem that you've been struggling to get solved, get in touch and would love to explore this with you, because it's unlocking, answers to things that we've had to find workarounds for in the past. So another great question here from Ed. Ed's asking what versions of SOLIDWORKS can connect to 3DExperience. The answer is that 3DExperience will support 3 versions of SOLIDWORKS at any point in time. So at this moment today, 2021, 2020, 2019. Now, that doesn't mean that older versions won't work, just they won't be on active support. So I've personally used it on 2018. The last service pack of 2018 works fine. So, just but support for 3 versions at a time. Okay, so that takes us through, I think, most of what we wanted to share. So there were 2 main goals for today. Or you got something, Scott?
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you there. Just I mean, I'm not real big into simulation. I have nothing against it. I just don't have the experience. And I'm just curious, what is the difference between the offerings for simulation that are on the platform versus what are on the desktop?
Yeah. So the offerings on the platform really focus on the non-linear capability, right? So anything less than that, anything static, you're probably still going to work in SOLIDWORKS simulation. But with that non-linear capability, we can take it so much further. And some of the technical differences of how those non-linear problems are solved relate to the contact that we discussed. There's more options for meshing. There's more options for material models. So really just more of an analyst level tool with much more explicit control over how to make things and analyze the way you want them to. But yeah, good question. So we had 2 goals today. We really wanted to kind of set that expectation that, hey, the 3DExperience is an operating system. Don't try to worry about what it does, because on its own, it doesn't do much. It's a technology platform that everything else can operate from. And then we hope to show you 3 business problems, whether that's collaborating data from different networks, whether that's quick concept creation for organic shapes, whether that's solving tough analysis problems, and show you workflows for those things to work together. There is a big long list of other things the 3DExperience can do either today or will do in the very, very near future. And my challenge to you and the question is that if you have a business problem that you're sitting down trying to figure out how to handle, I'd encourage you to share it with us. And we may be able to propose a solution that's available today or a solution that's coming soon. When you leave this session, you'll see a survey, and it has 1, maybe 2 questions in it. But the first question is that, do you have a business problem that you've been meaning to tackle for some time or that's causing you grief? And if we have something, we'll propose it, whether it's on the desktop or the 3DExperience. But that's how we want to focus, like looking at problems we can solve, sharing the solutions with you all, and seeing if they resonate with you. We hope we trying today to make it simple and just show you some real workflows. We hope we're able to do that. But we really appreciate your time, and we thank you for joining us today. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks everyone.